Hello and welcome. My name is Leilani and I will be presenting to you a presentation about blood vessels titled Go with the Flow, exploring the highways of blood vessels in our body. Let's begin. You're stuck in traffic on a busy highway trying to get to your destination. You're bored, I can tell. While you wait, have you ever thought about how blood vessels are similar to highways? Today I'm going to answer that question and explain to you the inner workings of our blood vessels. So let's take a trip inside the body to find out about blood vessels. A blood vessel is a tubular network that blood can travel through to reach every organ and tissue throughout your body. As you can see in the image, we have different types of blood vessels. The vessels allow nutrients and oxygen to be delivered where they are needed. Simultaneously, they complete diffusion or take out the waste product. The vessel also helps our body maintain homeostasis by controlling temperature. Thermoregulation is managed by the vessels the same way it handles blood pressure. That is, by increasing or decreasing the diameter of the vessel. When you are cold, your blood is drawn away from your skin to preserve heat. The opposite occurs when you are hot. The blood goes towards the skin to cool the body down. Now that you know what a blood vessel is, let's dissect it into 3 layers to understand its form to function. The inside layer of a blood vessel is called the tunica intima. The intima has layers within it made of connective and epithelial tissue. The lining of these layers, as well as all blood vessels, is the endothelium. It controls blood pressure and flow with its endothelians. The endothelians trigger the muscle layer of blood vessels to constrict. The constriction is known as vasoconstriction. The endothelium adheres to the connective tissue layer by the basement membrane. The basement membrane promotes the diffusion of molecules and the compliance of the vessel. We are going to learn more about how different vessels have different structures of the tunica in a later slide. But for now, I will give you a quick example of another important feature of this tunica intima. The internal elastic membrane, or lamina, is a section of elastic tissue that allows diffusion between the internal and medial layer. It is only present in arteries. It can be seen as the layer right outside the purple section on the image, right here. The tunica media is the middle layer inside the blood vessel wall, and it is made of an inside layer of elastic and an outer layer of smooth muscle. A muscle contraction within this layer causes the diameter of the blood vessel to widen or shrink. The widening is called vasodilation. The shrinking is called vasoconstriction. Nervi vassorum are nerves within the vessel wall that control the change of diameter to regulate blood pressure. An example of the tunica media being unique for arteries is by its form to function. The form of the external elastic membrane of the tunica media is curvy to help with the function of the artery receiving high pressure blood. We will visualize this in a later slide. Tunica externa. The tunica externa is made of connective tissue, elastic, and collagen. The function of this layer is to maintain its shape. The vasa vassorum inside the tunica externa can be defined as blood vessels inside the vessel walls that provide necessary molecules to each layer. This is vital for our tunica layers to function individually. The image in this slide is most likely a vein, judging from its large tunica externa. Right here is the tunica externa. So this is what a blood vessel wall looks like on the inside. Next, we're going to look into the 5 kinds of vessels. Arteries and arterioles. Arteries carry oxygenated blood away from the heart. The best way that I remember this is by correlating the word away with arteries. So I think arteries and away both start with A. There are 2 types of arteries. The first is an elastic artery. You might be familiar with the aorta and pulmonary artery. These are examples of elastic arteries. Elastic arteries are made of a durable composition to withstand the high pressure of the blood it transports. Just like a rubber band goes back to its original shape after being stretched, so do these elastic arteries when blood flows through them. This is vital to maintaining our blood pressure and circulation. The second type of artery is a muscular artery. This artery is farther away from the heart, has more muscle, and is a little less elastic. A muscular artery can be a major vessel in your arms, legs, and intestines. They typically have a smaller diameter in comparison to elastic arteries. The muscular arteries have more muscle in their tunica media. This structure supports vasoconstriction. As the size of the vessel decreases, we flow into arterioles. Arterioles are much smaller than arteries, with thinner layers of tunica. They help decrease blood pressure through their ability to change diameter or resistance. This resistance is called peripheral or systemic vascular resistance, meaning the control that the arteries have to decrease or increase the blood flow. Capillaries. These are our tiny blood vessels that are actually longer than a trip around the earth if you were to stretch them out. They can be found around our entire body. The lumen of these vessels only has enough room for a red blood cell, so they're pretty tiny. For this reason, the blood flow through here is called microcirculation. The lumen is vital for blood pressure. Microcirculation supports the delivery of essential nutrients. An important function of these capillaries is perfusion. It is defined as the transport of materials necessary to the outside environment. In the image on the right, we can see the diffusion of O2 and other molecules. Capillaries. There are 3 types of capillaries that have varying functions to support molecular travel in and out of capillaries. The first kind is the most porous out of all of the 3, called sinusoid. It is the vessel on the far right in the image, which you can tell by the many cracks. Right here. I remember this one has the most holes because it sounds like the word sinuses, which reminds me of the nose. These capillaries can help with the perfusion of big molecules. Ultimately, they allow many organs to function in a symbiotic relationship. Sinusoid capillaries are mostly found in your bone marrow and liver. The next capillary is fenestrated. This is the capillary in the middle of the image. Right here. They are important for the digestive, endocrine, and renal systems. These areas need rapid molecule exchange so the form of these capillaries supports that. The structure of these capillaries are more put together than sinusoid, but still wholly. I remember this one by connecting the word fenestrated and grated, like a cheese grater. Both have holes, but still have a uniform structure. The most completed capillary is a continuous one. The continuous capillary displayed on the far left of the image, as the name suggests, it is continuous. Only small molecules can pass through here. You can find a continuous capillary in your skin, muscles, and lungs. Capillary beds. Capillary beds are like an interchange connecting one highway to another. In this case, those 2 highways are arterioles and venules. These capillary bed interchanges extend all over your body. Zooming in on our blood vessel highway, and between our interchange, we have an exit we have to take, either going right or left. This meta-arterial exit controls the blood flow and microcirculation. The meta-arterial directs the blood to one exit that connects the artery to the capillary, or the second exit goes straight to a venule from the arteriole. This meta-arterial exit controls the blood flow and microcirculation. But how does the blood know which meta-arterial exit to take? This would be the job of the precapillary sphincters. When the sphincters are open, the blood will go through the capillaries to provide nutrients to the outside tissue. This is represented by image B. When the muscle sphincters are shut off, then the blood will go to the meta-arterial and then the venule. This is represented by image A. The blood travels via a thoroughfare channel. And for the sake of our highway illustration, we will label this structure as a tunnel leading to the venule. This thoroughfare channel works as a vascular shunt, meaning blood can be redirected to where it needs to go to support blood flow to organs or tissues. Veins and venules. After the blood leaves the capillary bed, it travels to a venule and begins its journey into the venous blood circulation. The venule is a very small vessel that has super thin tunica layers. They receive and store the deoxygenated blood inside their lumen. They can also allow for the diffusion of white blood cells of the immune system in a process called diapedesis. This image on the left is a venule from a microscopic view. Blood continues its road trip into the veins next. Veins are responsible for the forward flow of deoxygenated blood away from the capillaries towards the heart. Veins are all over your body, but can easily be found in muscles and skin. In order for veins to carry out their function, they are formed with odd-shaped lumens that have valves within them. The valves will perform against gravity to ensure blood does not go backwards. The image on the right displays the valve in a vein. Now I am going to briefly review the difference between arteries and veins. Arteries have a more circular shape, whereas veins have thinner surrounding structures and a large lumen. Arteries and veins have different routes for blood flow. Arterial blood flow starts with ventricular systole that pushes oxygenated blood of high pressure from an artery to arterial to capillary. In venous blood flow, skeletal muscle creates a forward flow of deoxygenated blood coming from the capillaries, moving towards the venules, and then the veins. Taking a closer look at the image of the two vessels' tunica layers, we can see that the tunica intima of the artery, or the tan-colored section, right here, looks quite curvy. This is different from veins because the intima layer contains fixated smooth muscle. Arteries also have a very thick tunica media layer to support the higher blood pressure coming from the heart. This is different in veins because they are farther away from the heart, meaning lower pressure. In veins, the outside tunica layer is thicker, right here, than the artery's outside layer. On the image, we see the difference of size of the vessels. Both of these vessels have vasa and nerva vasorum. Now we are going to transition to learning about the flow of the blood. Venous blood flow has to perform against obstacles, but it has components that will aid it in this process. The big obstacle that venous blood flow has to work around is gravity. Because the vein is carrying blood back up towards the heart, it is equipped with the valves that force forward flow by closing if the blood tries to go back through the capillaries. The image here shows how the valves open. The skeletal muscle pump also helps and is activated by a contraction of the skeletal muscle from activity. The red arrows in the image represent the contraction. This increases blood pressure and forces blood upwards while closing valves below the contraction. Another way to promote forward flow is by respiration, which increases blood pressure by triggering the respiratory pump. Going along with the respiratory pump, the pressure gradient in the flow supports the correct movement of blood. In our blood, a pressure gradient is the action of blood moving from high pressure area to a low pressure area. The pressure gradient encourages blood back towards the heart. With all these components working together, our circulatory system can complete its repeating cycle. Venous valves in the leg. As we have covered in previous slide, valves within veins allow the blood to flow forward by pushing open the valve ahead and simultaneously closing the valve behind. Valves are essential to our skeletal muscle pump located in the extremities. However, if there is an issue with the venous valves and the blood begins to flow backwards, you may be at risk for varicose veins. The vessel walls begin to retain the blood, creating that enlarged, squiggly look, as shown in the image. Another cause of varicose veins is when the microcirculatory system has unwarranted drainage. That's why it's important to get your muscles moving, so make sure you stretch those legs while you're on your highway road trip. Wow, what an incredible system we got to learn about while waiting. Traffic has finally cleared, you're in the fast lane now. As you're zooming by, let's review what we learned. The blood vessel wall has 3 layers. There are many types of blood vessels like arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, and veins. Arteries and veins have different tunica layers to support their function. Our circulatory system would not be complete without blood vessels. This network of our body's highways nourish our body and bring us life. Thank you. Here are my references.